New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello. Welcome to Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn Olmstead.
And I am Gil, and we are excited to be with you today on this first Wednesday, July 2024.
July, we're in the middle of the year.
Yes, we are. Middle of the year. It's a lovely time. Nice and warm, things happening. We have a big holiday coming up tomorrow.
We do have a big holiday that we don't have any real plans for.
No?
Just so you know, we are a married couple, generally living in two different parts of the country, one in California, one in New Mexico. However, we are together right now in New Mexico. So that's what we're doing. We're rocking the love together, and we're excited to be here with you. We're excited that you're joining us. Let us know where you're joining us from. Hey, Shay, we see you out there. Good to see you. And I can't believe it's July, and there's a lot going on. Doesn't it feel like a lot going on?
Yes. Yeah, it really does. It really does. Exciting. We have a week off from one of our big activities during the week. We're not doing it this week, so that's kind of nice. Gives us a little more of a break. I went camping this last weekend with our godson and some other people from our spiritual center, and we had a lot of fun, got a lot of rain on our heads. It was fun.
Yes, we're giving our producer the day off. Actually take 2 days. Don't even worry about your show on Friday. We'll do it for you. You just take your time, relax, and take the freedom to be you, because you are that fierce resemblance of freedom. And your boss will arrive on Saturday as well.
Yeah, enjoy your vacation remuneration. It should be really happening there.
That's so funny. Time off. What does that really mean? You could do a whole show on time off.
Well, it used to mean time off.
Right.
I mean, years ago, I think it didn't mean that in the same way, I think that's part of where the whole, Sunday day of resting came from, because there had to be some way to limit the number of chores to do on the farm and that kind of a thing,
Right.
And then as people started working in manufacturing and other things, it was like, you go to work, you do whatever you do, and then when you leave, you leave, and that's it. And there's still a level at which that's true, but there's a lot more people doing a lot more other stuff when they're off. I mean, they're answering emails, they're answering calls, they're constantly in text mode with people.
Well, we're always accessible.
Yeah.
When you used to take time off, like if you left your house, you couldn't be found until you were found. You know what I mean? I mean, you couldn't call on the cell phone, and you couldn't. It was a whole different way.
Yeah. People going off the grid was a different thing then. I mean, if somebody said going off the grid in those days, boy, people are like, what? Because generally you could go off the grid in the way people think of it now pretty easily. You know, you just decide, okay, we're going to go on vacation, and here we go.
Yeah, it is a different world we live in. It is a very different world. So I'm excited for our show today. We're talking about the inside outs of freedom. The inside outs of freedom. So yeah, what the heck does that mean, Shay? Let us know what comes up for you in the chat. Yeah, so I'm excited about that. My week was good. I finally got here. I traveled from California to New Mexico. Before I did that, though, I had a couple days home with my sister by ourselves because our godson had already left to go to New Mexico, and we had a great time. It was very relaxing. Like, we just did our thing separate, and then we'd come together. We had Thai food one night and watched a movie, and then the next day we made dinner and, you know, watched more movies, and it was like I gave myself the permission to do things that we don't usually do anymore, for just the same reason you were talking about, because there's always something else I should be doing. Damn, that's good. Yeah. So it was super. It was a good week, and then, you know, it was a journey to get here. Flights delayed, canceled, gone. I had to stay the night over in Las Vegas, which, as many of you know, generally would be a very happy place for me. It is one of my happy places, but it wasn't my happy place that night. I was like, I just need to get to my man. I just get to New Mexico. Like, you know, I was like on a mission. I was very tunnel vision. And I kept saying to myself, come on, Robyn, rally, go downstairs, gamble. I'm like, yeah, no. So, yeah, but I got here and it's good. And it's hot, man. I don't understand why people choose to live here. I don't understand this heat. I don't understand it. I don't understand no water.
Yeah, that is different. However, we've had water for you almost every afternoon.
Yeah, I love those. I love the rainstorms. That's super fun.
They're really fun.
They are fun.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned a couple things, but we have a new little friend in the house. Didn't he come on Wednesday? Wasn't it Wednesday? Or was it Tuesday? We didn't talk about him last week, did we?
I don't know, but why don't we talk about him now?
We did. Our producer's saying yes.
Oh.
Okay, so he's been here a week and he's doing great. So it's very fun.
So you're very cryptic. If I never watched the show, I'd be like, what the heck is this guy talking about?
Well, it's
you know, friend. Did we talk about
my little friend?
Shit, that's kind of creepy.
So
we got a rescue puppy. We got a rescue puppy. Gil picked him up last week. I met him when I got here on Monday, and yeah, he's cute. He's cute. He follows Gil around like he was attached. And I overstand because I've had my share of dogs that follow me around. But yeah, he's cute.
Yeah, he is.
And we were good. We have a little name contest going on Facebook. I have like 100 names. It's only 78 here. Wow. Well, it's different 78 than when I'm in San Diego and it's 78. I'll just tell you that. When I landed in Las Vegas, it was 107 at 4:30 in the afternoon, or 5, whatever time it was. That's just too hot. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. That's the rescue dog. He doesn't have a name yet. We're still looking at names, but so far the leading name is Henry, Hank, Hanky Panky, Enrique, Kike, Hank, Henry, which is all one variation on a name, just so you know.
No, it's a multiple variations on one name.
Right. That. But it's not different names is what I'm saying. So, okay, so you all saw what Shay said. Freedom is an inside job. There are ways I might still see myself as oppressed, but my choice is to see with holy vision. I am free when I'm in my right mind. Doesn't always stick. Oh, Shay, don't we know it? Don't we know it? Those moments in our right minds, at least for me, those moments in my right mind are so precious, And when I say that, I'm thinking about like the times where we really do stop and take care of ourselves and, take a break and things like that. We actually talked about that a little bit yesterday on my other show, Girls Behaving Metaphysically, just like what it means to slow down, because slow down was the card we pulled. Slow down.
Oh, wow. Slow down. That's cool.
Yeah, slow down. And then the card we left with for the week was answering the call.
Wow.
The time is now.
Mm.
Cool things to think about and take into your week and your meditations. But that's not what we're doing now. Right now, stick with us because we're doing the good news. This is our segment where we'd like to talk about what's good in the world because we don't hear enough about that. So tell me what you got. I always want to say, tell me what you got. Okay, go ahead.
So, many of us have paid some attention to the debate and those things, presidential election stuff, and we've heard how horrible the economy is, how awful everything is, and how our money can't keep us alive because there isn't enough, and how the jobs are being decimated and taken away, and all these things. And so today, I found in the good news that the US is on a path of recovery from the worldwide pandemic that is ahead of everybody else. Our economy is doing the best in the world, or one of the best in the world, recovering from it. Our wage growth is rising faster than inflation, which means people are getting more money than the cost of living is increasing, which means they're actually netting more money in the end on average. And we've got manufacturing going way up compared to previous years. Have the lowest unemployment we've had in half a century. Now, if I had thought of this the other day, I would have thought everyone was telling me that it was horrible because no one can get a job in this country. And the reality is, it stayed below 4% for 2 years straight, which is our best since the 1960s. Oh, guess what about crime? It's at its lowest rate. You mentioned that, right?
Yeah, this is what we talked about last week. It was my good news story, all those stats going down.
All those? Okay, so I just gave your same story?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I only remember the one about the crime. So anyway.
It's great.
There you go. But the point is that it's a whole different understanding if we look at it. And I think this really speaks to what we're going to talk about today, which is part of why I picked it.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And I think you tied it into the week of the debate, and anyone who watched the debate probably had a whole lot of fact checking going on in their heads. And this is an opportunity to just really understand what the truth is on some level. So,
yeah.
Cool. Very
cool.
All right. Go ahead.
How about you? What do you got?
My story, I decided to go with a story close to home since I'm living in Southern California, that there was an endangered barred tapir calf born at the San Diego Zoo. And that's the picture of it. Isn't it cool looking?
What's a tapir calf?
That is. Okay, so I'll tell you. So this is a baby tapir calf, and it's bolstering an endangered species that has a lot of challenges out in the wild. And so the calf was born at the San Diego Zoo, and it's sharing the compound with the elephant compound. And so they come into the world born like that with those patterns to provide them as camouflage in the wild. And sometimes the mothers even leave them behind, like while they're, excavating and looking for food and doing all that. And so that helps them hide, stay safe. And they're starting to want to recreate these and have them grow into, have them replenish the species. It says when they grow into adults, their coat changes and it becomes dark. Michael, do you have that picture? There's a picture of the mother with the baby, and it just shows that one is dark and looks kind of like an elephant and a pig put together. They contribute significantly to the ecosystems in Mexico and Central and South America by helping fertilize the forest floor. And this process promotes the growth of new plants, which in turn provides food and shelter for a variety of other species. And conservationists needed to protect the species because it was being hunted for sport in Costa Rica and threatened by the loss of the habitat due to farming and cattle grazing and rubber plantations and all the things that ultimately reduce their food supply. So efforts are underway to protect their tapir habitats and promote them as flagship wildlife that could encourage tourism. And all of that will also create jobs beyond farming and logging and inspire people to help protect the animal and the environment. So that's it.
Okay. Nice.
But isn't it cute? Wouldn't you like to have one?
It's adorable. Yeah, I think, we could go for tapir rides or something with the larger one there.
I'm just saying. Anyway, all right. So when we come back, the inside outs of freedom. And just so y'all know, we went to the movies last night and we saw Inside Out 2, which inspired us to talk about this. So we're going to talk about all of the emotions and things we bring to the party and celebrate this fierce Independence Day Eve. So you don't want to miss it. Come back right after this message, right here on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
People of African Descent New Thought Group proudly presents Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village, Thursday, August 1st through Sunday, August 4th. Some of our greatest keynote speakers, some of our finest musicians and vocalists, some of our amazing and experienced panelists, and some of our fabulous masterclass presenters will be there for you at Celebrating Our Soul, Consciously Creating Change at Unity Village this summer. Regular registration ends June 30th, so don't delay. Register today at padntg.com. Sponsorship opportunities are available at padntg.com. Volunteer opportunities are available at padntg.com. Go there now, padntg.com. See you there.
We are back. Welcome to Rockin the Love. So excited to be with you today as we discuss the inside outs of freedom. I am Robyn Olmstead.
And I'm Gil William Olmstead, and we are together, Rockin the Love. Here we are. So the inside outs of freedom. What an interesting concept. So you mentioned that we'd been to see Inside Out 2 last night. For those of you who may or may not know, it is a Pixar Disney film, animated film, and it is the sequel to the original Inside Out, which happens to give an insight by giving emotions, giving certain characters charge of certain emotions, and so you're inside someone's brain, watching their different emotions take control of them, basically.
Yeah, and you may or may not have seen the first one, and that movie there was 5 emotions that they worked with that came up for her, and it was fear, sadness, anger, joy, and disgust. And they have added more emotions to this sequel, which is only appropriate because she's a teenager. So God knows that awakens a slew of emotions from within. They added, what did they add? They added boredom, and boredom was my favorite. Nostalgia. And
embarrassment,
yeah.
Anxiety, envy.
Yep. Yeah. All of those things. That's exactly what they added. So we started thinking about, what does that look like in our relationships? What does that look like when we're functioning in the world, and how does that affect us?
Well, I think the whole thing for me was just observing this idea that, we have to come to terms with our emotions, which was kind of the thing of the movie. Ultimately, there was some level of resolution where everybody kind of realized that they all needed each other. But there's this thing in us that I think if we try to suppress one, or we ignore it, or we always are acting from it, or whatever it is, then we're off balance. And that's not going to help us in relationships with others, because we're not in a settled relationship with ourselves.
Right. And well, I also think, that in both movies, the primary function where one was operating from was that of joy and happiness, when in reality, that's not where we're always functioning from. Maybe that's where we'd like to be functioning from, or that's the end goal. So it was super interesting to just watch the others come in and what their part was. So, and this reminds me a lot. We were actually having this conversation somewhat with our producer about he was marrying a couples, and we've married couples, and when we've done the work with them, it's so much about what are you bringing to the party and how is that filtered, because we all go through happiness and joy and boredom and envy and rage and all of those things. And what does it look like? Like if you've been told it's not good to get angry, or it's, whatever, just the things we've been told throughout the years and how we hold those emotions.
Yeah, that's really true. Obviously, we learn from those who have preceded us in this life, and we learn from how they deal with their emotions. And we all know people that they put anger in charge most of the time. They don't realize even that sadness is there, or disappointment is there, or anything else is there. It's just like, it doesn't feel good. I'm angry, so anger takes over, and that doesn't work so well usually.
Well, and is it anger? Is it anger or is it fear? Because I tend to believe that when people are operating from a fear of the unknown, like whether it's happiness or whether it's anger or whatever, that it brings up the other emotions because they haven't had that experience. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm thinking about a lot of times during our earlier days of our marriage, just really trying to decipher the code, to break down the code to how things happen. And you know what I mean? Like, because you would have certain reactions where I was like, or, like so surprised, like that you would snap on something. Here's this guy that it was like, oh, he's so cool, he's so calm, he's so laid back, he's so this. And, I'd put the dish in the dishwasher the wrong way, and you'd be like, what's wrong with you? I was like, whatever. And I'm making those situations up, but it was that kind of a thing. You know what I mean? And really, if we broke that down, like you're going through, you're not necessarily, you may be angry, but I don't think you're really angry. You're annoyed that I don't, know the system, kind of thing. And like, but what is that in your head? How does that happen, and how does that affect the other person? Because I'm thinking, it's a dish.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's very funny because they presented some of that in this thing when they first introduced the new emotions, and they introduced a new system to control the person where they all had their own buttons and stuff, and one of them would touch the button, and the little girl would react, like overreact, whatever it was, whether it was happiness and she was laughing inappropriately, or whether it was anger and she would just tell her mother to get the hell out of her room, that kind of a thing. And I thought that was really kind of interesting, because even the emotions are like, whoa, that was more than I didn't expect that. But somehow we really trip, we really move based on something that's not that significant, really.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the movie last night. Yeah, I think there's so many. It's also it's like, it is like navigating another language. It really is learning another language. And because you're constantly listening to the fear or the sadness or the joy or whatever and putting them together and trying to figure out who's going to win.
And does anyone have to win? Does one of them have to be the right one? Can they all have their place? Can we allow ourselves to feel sad in the midst of something that also is making us happy? You know what I mean? Or also making us frustrated, that kind of a thing. And I think that was it. And if we talk about this in terms of freedom, I think the whole thing is about, we can't be ourselves. We can't show up in ways that allow us to relate to others if we are if we're tied to emotions that we don't even realize, that we're allowing something in particular to take over, even insofar as allowing the happy joy thing to be the only one in charge all the time.
Right.
Because then we do the spiritual bypass. We do the thing where everything is great, it's all good, perfect. But whatever it is, the other emotions inside, if we don't ever talk to them a little bit, they get upset.
Yeah.
At some point it builds up.
Yeah. And I want to share a quote from the movie, actually. And unfortunately, Michael, I couldn't get my banner thing to work, so I'm going to just put it in the chat. But this is, there it is, 92 times. This is a quote that was said by Fear that, sorry, I am sure glad you told me earthquakes are a myth, Joy. Otherwise, I'd be terrified right now. And but it just kind of speaks to like some of what we're saying, but also just how we balance it out, like, you know what I'm saying? Can you say it? I like that quote.
Well, yeah, and that was a little sarcastic, if I remember correctly.
Maybe, but still the same essence.
Yeah. And so sometimes we try to calm fears and things like that. The stuff that's not even necessarily logical or reasonable, but something that will make us feel better,
Yeah.
Yeah, emotions are information, and that's right. And when we cut off whatever the information is, then we're the ones who lose out ultimately.
So how do we bring all of it together? How do we coexist? And like, I know you and I, when we used to talk, when we would talk about the marriage, like we likened it to, two people getting married, coming together, bringing their luggage and unpacking their bag, and in their luggage they have a whole different experience other than the other person, which is what we've also learned in terms of how we communicate and who we're talking to at different times when it's not the other person. So what would you say is the way to bring them together?
Well, first of all, I'd say, some of us have some pretty slick looking luggage, but when you open it up, it's a mess. And so there's that thing where we're holding back, and then there's just the stuff that we carry with us, like stuff that doesn't matter anymore, that we've already worked through, that we've already, it's not going to change anything. We're not going to change it. it's a fact. It's not a burden anymore. And yet sometimes those things hang on. And those are the things, for me anyway, that creep up when something happens and I feel this response. It's because I have this place in me that's still, heated up or whatever by whatever this memory is that I have. That's a certain type of emotion, and boom, it shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can still think about that. I can see that happening from different phases of my life, different places where it pops up now. And unless I'm being aware, I won't even realize what it is. I just think that somehow this is a legitimate emotion around whatever's going on in front of me.
Right.
Even though it's not about what's going on in front of me.
Right.
Because it's a piece of my luggage,
Well, yeah, it's a piece of your luggage, and you have to make the choice if you're going to use it in the same way. Like your luggage, you may be carrying an old pair of jeans with holes in them. Are you going to wear them as that? Or are you going to cut them off and make them cutoffs? And are you going to, cut them apart and make them rags? Like, how do you really let go? Like, I asked that, I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to just share, Shay said that emotions are information and all of them are important. Fear and anger can be protective or destructive. That's true. And, are we in charge of that? Are we the end saying on whether or not we'll declare that one protective, that one constructive, that one destructive? Like how do we find that balance?
Well, if emotions are information, then in fact, we are responding to those emotions in some way. We're responding to information in our world. We're responding to other people, what they say, what they do. And if an emotion jumps in and says, oh, you need to be afraid of that, then my response can be, oh my God, yes, that's scary. I got to change. I got to move. This isn't good. Or I can go, okay, that's interesting thought. I'll keep that in mind, or no, it's not. It's okay, fine, great. Thanks for sharing, and that's kind of what I caught in the movie too, was any emotion sort of overexerting itself, which I think is more us allowing it to overexert itself, becomes more of a negative, even though it has its place in our information gathering world. It's good to have fear when you hear a growling lion outside your door. That's a good thing. Okay, I should relocate.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a bad thing. But if a cat meows outside your door and fear kicks in, then obviously fear is driving you instead of responding to your world.
Right. Shay's saying it takes some time, reflection, and really knowing oneself to discern if anger or fear is telling you to actually run. Yeah. Yeah. And also, I think, moving, because what we're saying right now is very logical and it's very thinking. And I think there's also a point at which, we ask the question in many forms, but I'm going to ask it in this form. What would love do? Or what would I be if love was leading? Or, or how can I bring more love to the situation? And I know that sometimes that looks like a different question, but at the end of it, I mean, I think that's kind of the solution, or not the solution, the equation for getting the balance back in order. Because I think when we lead with love, we tend to dissipate some of the fear, or we tend to reappropriate it to be, that protective guiding force, as opposed to like nail biting fear, what am I going to do kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, any of the, I think any of our emotions can become somewhat debilitating, if we go headlong into them. And I think, that we have to really look at, so what do I want? What would work? Like you said, what would happen in this situation if I changed this emotion? If I added some emotion into this thing that was totally different, something that wasn't there before, like love into a situation where there's anger and hurt and pain, what's going to happen? I don't know. It's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think, and then there's also determining like how much of this do we, okay, I can't read and talk at the same time right now because I'm trying to figure out my question. How much of this is also brought in by our age, our life experience, our being who we are on the planet and thinking we know what we know.
Right. Yes. And I think our age and experience can be a grand advantage if we have taken advantage of it, if you will. And it can also be a disadvantage because we can be so locked into stuff that we don't even know it, don't even realize it. It's just become such the norm, and I for me, I see it more clearly with people who are who are like for instance, someone who's kind of always seeing the negative side of things, or always seeing the possibility of what can go wrong, right? And I don't want to confront this because it could turn out bad, and you can see people kind of stuck in what they're doing.
Well, and so that speaks to another quote that that made me laugh. This one here with Joy. Joy asked Sadness, "Isn't this fun?" And Sadness said, "No." And Joy said, "Atta girl." And I think sometimes that's the way we function, right? Like it's familiar, and I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, kind of in the opposite.
And then go ahead.
I was just saying, I mean, kind of in the, I could see that, being a person that's been through depression. Isn't it wonderful? No, it is not. And you cannot talk me into it.
Right. Right. We get stuck in our story and we're comfortable with it. I mean, it's like with the time, one time Gil and I were in this workshop where, if any of you have been to New Thought workshops, we do the nice thing of telling you all the rules and, don't talk over others and respect the space and blah, 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 all those things that are very important. And, somebody else, they asked, is there any other rules? And one day I was like, yeah, don't judge my joy. Because I didn't want people walking up to me all day at the workshop going, are you okay? You don't look happy. If I was, pensive or what, people had an expectation, but I was like, don't judge my joy. And I think that we tend to do that, right?
Right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. We discount, we judge other people what their emotions really are that are happening, even though we don't know what the heck the emotions are that are happening.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's based on previous experience, but it's just not always true.
Right.
And even if it is, sometimes we don't want to know your summation of it. We want to be stuck where we are.
But then there's that.
That's another show. I got it. So here's another quote that Joy said. Maybe this is what happens when you grow up. You feel less joy. What do you think about that one?
That's an interesting quote. I think at some level, I mean, to me, what I'm hearing in that is maybe you allow yourself to feel the wider range. And so you're not always just skipping the joy. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I think that as we get older, I think we get more stuck in some of the stories, not us, of course, and not our listeners, because we're on a metaphysical path and we're always moving towards the light. But I think that people, I mean, even I'll use the example of the debates this week. I have all my own feelings similar to what many people have said. And I was like, how many times can I repeat this story? How many times am I going to live into this? Oh, maybe he shouldn't run. Oh, maybe he should. Maybe he should. I was like, if I'm going to stay with something and support someone, I need to move into a different story. And so I think sometimes instead of moving into a different story, I mean, we know many people who've gotten very comfortable in their anger and in their stuckness, or in what they're convicted to, that no, this will never work. This will never happen like that. That's when I'm glad that we have listeners like Wayne out there, who is always bringing the joy, bringing the love, bringing Violet, bringing Twerks. Be kind, and Shay, of course, who's anchoring all kinds of love all over the planet. Everywhere I go on Facebook or any place, Shay's been there before me, talking to somebody. I'm like, damn, she knows everyone I know. So, but you know what I mean? We get stuck in our story and we buy into it. And it's like, I was just like, we got a few more months of this election stuff. I'm like, I can't buy into it. I can't buy into it. I got to stay in the joy and knowing that for whatever reason, this is happening like this, So that's my interpretation of that.
So is that a bypass?
Say that again.
Is that like a bypass? I'm just asking, like, so if we I'm just not gonna think about this anymore, kind of thing.
Are you saying I'm spiritually bypassing? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, I mean that idea kind of a way we bypass ourselves, or
not for me. Not for me. I'm not saying that it couldn't be, but for me, it's more of a reset. Like, it's like you can look at the glass of water and see it, whatever, half empty kind of thing, or totally full, And so really, I think that for me, it is it's not bypass. It's really resetting and knowing I see the things that I would like to be different, and that and if it's like the train wreck. It's like, if I keep reading every article and everything, is he going to get a new running mate? Is he going to drop out? Is he going to do this? Maybe he should get a cognitive this, and so, and when I chose instead to focus on what I see as being the light there, and, in contrast to my other choices.
Yeah, Shay says not a bypass. I choose joy and peace, and all of that is neither. I don't even participate at all anymore. So much happier and peaceful. So I hear that, and at some level, what I heard, Rob, when you were saying that was, it's sort of that choice of who's going to lead. I mean, if you're talking about the emotions as persons, like in the movies, I'm sorry, I'm kind of, it's not normally how we talk about them, but which one is going to lead? Which one do you want to call to the front of the pack to help you through? It doesn't mean none of the rest of them are there. It just means who are you putting in charge of the process,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if anger is our lead all the time, then that's how we're going to approach things, and we're going to feel the results of anger. We're going to feel the hormonal results in our body. We're going to feel the emotional pain. We're going to feel whatever that is, if that's the one that's leading. Now, it doesn't say we won't feel any anger anywhere.
Right.
It doesn't feel we won't let ourselves notice that, yeah, I don't like that at all.
Right.
But if it's our lead, that's another story.
Well, and that's why, can we lead with love? Can we lead with joy? Can we lead with possibility? And I think that that's generally who I am. That's generally what I try to do. I mean, I don't sit down and chart it out, but that's just always been the way I've been, because to me, it just seems like double work to be negative and then have to come out of it. So I figure, why not just be positive first? But yes, Shay, let love rule. But I'm going to leave you with this quote, because I think it follows up perfectly to letting love rule. So this is another quote by Joy. Clearly, I didn't know that I had so many quotes from her, but it says, "Of course I'm delusional. Do you know how hard it is to stay positive all the time when all you folks do is complain, complain, complain? Jiminy, mother loving toaster strudel." But it's true. It's like, in this world, it's like, who's delusional? And who's leading who? So it's like, yeah, love is the creative force of the universe.
That's right. That's exactly it. And what do we say all the time? Where are we coming from? And that when we say, who are you letting lead? It's the same idea of, are we coming from that place of authentic love and joy, to the best of our ability? Or are we coming from a place of fear and doubt, or envy, or or ennui? Who cares?
Yes, ennui. Boredom was fun. Anyway, so if you get a chance, it's a good movie to go see, or wait for it to come on Netflix or whatever. But it's a fun movie. It's an entertaining evening, and clearly, it's food for thought, right?
And I think we determined it definitely has some metaphysical roots in it.
Well, Fixer is metaphysical masters. Anyway,
yeah.
So everybody have a safe, healthy, happy 4th of July, and celebrate the freedom that we have and that we are, and just know that we are fiercely being that space of love. So thank you, everybody. We will see you next week, and I'll still be in Albuquerque. Yay! Woo! All right. Rock the love, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Michael Mangus. Mwah.